I recently saw a statistic that said like 26% of doctors are going to leave the clinical setting in the next like 5 years or something. Don't quote me on that, but it was something ridiculous where it was like people are leaving. Even my friend lives in Boston and is a dietitian up there in Boston Children's, and she was saying like the turnover there in the hospitals, like no one wants to stay in hospitals anymore. No one wants to work there. Everyone's getting out as much as they can.
Welcome to Full Field. What's up, bro?
Back at it, man. Hey,
back.
Good day, man. Exciting stuff here.
We got a special guest with us today. I'm super excited. I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be
it's been a long time coming. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have the privilege of welcoming a true powerhouse in the fields of nutrition, entrepreneurship, and education. So we're gonna fill you in on all three of those. Our guest, Dasha Agoulnik, is a trailblazer whose remarkable achievements have left an indelible mark on the world of nutrition and gut health, which we're going to be focusing on both of those, and we're going to be focusing on, obviously, the entrepreneurship piece, because she is amazing.
Yeah.
Tell a little bit about her.
Dasha is a registered dietitian, 5-time published nutrition researcher, 2-time award-winning bikini athlete. That's awesome. She graduated from the top nutrition graduate program in the country, Tufts University, a Friedman School. Her research and coaching focuses on optimizing metabolic and digestive health through nutrition and exercise. CorePerform has helped over 500 people and growing. Right, you're still building this, and you get results in just 3 months with 100% success rate. That's fantastic. I love those stats right there. She recently won Friedman's 100,000 pitch competition for her patent pending protein, which I want to hear a lot more about, and was welcomed into the U.S. Food and Innovation Council with leaders in the industry like Kellogg, Campbell, and Nestle. That's freaking huge. That's awesome. Dasha, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thank you guys for having me. How are you guys doing?
We're doing awesome. We're blessed today.
We're blessed beyond measure.
It's a chilly day here in Tampa, Florida. How's the weather out there?
It's 46, but Texas is weird. We wake up with like 40 degrees, and by afternoon the sun heats us up to like 72.
Yeah.
That's Florida. That's like Tampa
too.
Right now. We call that like 75, 55, I feel like. So I want to dig in. We want to get nerdy today, but then we also want to get like I want to hear the entrepreneurship side as well. But our focus is living full fueled, so we want to make sure we focus on the pillars, and that is the main thing is gut health. Gut health is so important, and we know you're an expert in that area, so we want to focus on that. But we also, our first question is, can you share a bit about your journey in the field of nutrition and specifically gut health from your academic side at maybe Tufts and how the thing evolved, even came about, then also to the founding of CorePerform. So if you could just give us a little background there.
Sure thing. So my background is in nutrition research. So I got my master's in nutritional epidemiology from Tufts Nutrition, which is a really fancy way of saying how diet affects disease. And so my thesis at Tufts was looking at the paleo diet. How was it created? Who created this concept? Is it actually valid based off of the research that we have around it, which it's not. We didn't, as human populations, we didn't really eat like they say we did. The research says that we ate like 110 grams of fiber a day, and that's not realistic, which I can go into later on. But my research really focused on the paleo diet, and at that time I was getting diagnosed with celiac disease. So I was going through my own gut issues at that time, battling with doctors. I remember one time I was sitting in Boston traffic if any of you are from Boston, you know that this is like a 2-hour, you're stuck in head-to-head car. I remember having such a spasm and like stabbing pain in my stomach. I almost, I was stuck because I was like, do I call an ambulance because it's going to take them just as long to get to me right now in the middle of traffic? Or do I try and make it at another 30 minutes to the next exit? I was in so much pain during that time, and that really fueled a lot of my interest in gut health and understanding why the system is so broken in terms of the medical system. I was wanting to be a doctor, and then, I was like, you know what? I want to be a dietitian because I can change people's lifestyle and diet in order to improve their health. I don't have to have them get on a medication. I can actually change their life. And that is the most rewarding part of what I do, is I get to transform the actual human being. After people work with me, I get to see the brightness that changes in their life. I get to hear about how their coworkers are commenting about how much nicer they are and happier they look, and what's the magic trick that's now going on. So all of that research got me really interested in gut health. And I remember when I was choosing my thesis at the time, I actually wanted at the time to do the low FODMAP diet. I was like, this is going to be the next big thing. And my professors were like, no, there's not enough research on it. You shouldn't choose the low FODMAP diet. No one knows about it. I've never heard about it. And I was like, no, I want to do it. And they were like, you can't do that one. And funny enough, like 10 years later, everyone knows what the low FODMAP diet is. And I was like, I should have done it. It's always been a huge passion of mine. And I then became a dietitian and opened my own practice right after graduation.
I love that you went that route, open your own practice, and you went entrepreneurial stuff. Because, a lot of dietitians get stuck in that medical system too. Right? Like they just go work with a hospital system, and then it's just, like a hospital nutritionist is giving people peanut butter and jellies bedside. Like you said, it's broken, right? So you're shifting the paradigm in another direction, which is fantastic. So really, really love that.
I actually worked in a hospital while I was doing my dietetic internship. And I remember the whole time I was like, I came in as an entrepreneur, and I was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur after this. And my dietetic director, she was like, why are you in one of the best clinical programs in this country if you're not going to go clinical? And I was like, because I need to learn what's going on in those systems, because all of my patients have to understand, and myself, like we all go through that hospital system at some point in our lives, and I need to understand it from the ground up. I need to know internally how the teams are working, how the dietitians are working in those teams. And that's why I love doing my internship. I hated it, but I loved what I learned out of it. It was absolutely brutal, but I get it now, right? Like I get why the dietitians are feeding them peanut butter sandwiches. I get why they're feeding them ice cream sundaes. Like I get it. If I was them, I would be doing the same thing. It's not because they want to be doing that. It's because of how the system is set up that they have no better choice. And at that point, when you're sick, calories are calories. Like we have to get something in them,
Yeah, and that's where they're taught, and they kind of just follow that model, right? Like very similar to many MDs. And again, like I think doctors are smart people for the most part, but you get taught what to think, right, versus how to think a lot of the time. So I think it's great to see people like yourself, especially young people, like shifting that, right? Like we're kind of the next, generation of docs that are trying to do something a little bit different and focus more on the patient than the processes, right?
I recently saw a statistic that said 26% of doctors are going to leave the clinical setting in the next 5 years or something. Don't quote me on that, but it was something ridiculous where it was people are leaving the health. Even my friend lives in Boston and is a dietitian up there in Boston Children's, and she was saying the turnover there in the hospitals, no one wants to stay in hospitals anymore. No one wants to work there. Everyone's getting out as much as they can.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's the energy like in a hospital? It's usually not great, right? It's pretty negative. It's very I don't think people really get healthier in a hospital. Maybe they're being saved from some kind of life-threatening injury or illness acutely, but they're not ultimately getting healthier, right? And that's got to happen, honestly, at home, right, with your diet and nutrition stuff, which is kind of segues right into what I wanted to ask you. Can you explain a little bit the unique approach that you have with the CorePerform that helps people to optimize their metabolic and digestive health, and how you kind of came up with that?
Yeah, so while I was going through this, I kind of was as a dietitian, what is the most inclusive diet that I could create that was least inflammatory for the most amount of people? Which means that if I just gave it to Jane May, who I don't even know, Jane Doe, that's the correct name.
Like May.
If I give it, Jane May. If I give it to Jane May and I don't know what's going on with her, will she see a benefit from this diet? And so what I did was I combined aspects of paleo, AIP, low histamine, low FODMAP. But what I did was those diets, a lot of them are actually, they're not changing any carbohydrate intake or fat or protein intake. You can still eat all those things on all of the diets. But what changes is the specific fruits and vegetables. So I went through those lists and I made like a really, really micronutrient dense foods list for my patients that's put into 3 columns, a little bit mirrored from this Walls protocol, if you've ever heard of the Walls diet, which is a clinical evidence-based. She's done clinical trials on her diet intervention. And it's kind of picking up pieces of that as well, where it's really focusing on the 3 phases of your liver detoxification system: B vitamins, antioxidants, and then proteins. And so I've created this diet, right? And so everyone who comes to me, we typically, for the most part, I mean, of course there's modulations based off of the person, but we put them on this elimination diet. And as quickly as we can, we reintroduce the food back into the diet. And the reason why we do this is because food sensitivity tests are not accurate. And the only true way to identify a food sensitivity and to heal from any food sensitivities that might have come up is to eliminate and exchange whatever food that you're eating. So we see huge results without even needing to do expensive testing, put expensive supplements on you, do whatever it is. It's truly a natural process that we try and focus on.
I love that. Yeah. I do some similar stuff in my practice, not as in depth as you, but what's like the buy-in with patients? Is that tough for you to get, people to, hey, let's make sure we're eliminating this? Is that what kind of roadblocks do you come into contact with?
Honestly, it's not very difficult for the first week or 2, right? And the reason being that I think that most people there's really no roadblock, to be completely honest, because within the first week, people feel so much better. Like I have people losing between 0 to 10 pounds. I had a girl once lose 10 pounds of water. I had her tracking her calories every day. I was like, you're hitting the same macros. She came from a bodybuilding background. She lost 10 pounds of water in a week. I was like, how are you alive? Like, how did you feel that much inflammation in your system?
Yeah. True, I feel like one thing I love about you, there's a book, I think it's called The Speed of Trust. And it's one of those things when they're coming to you, you're just like building that trust as fast as possible, or already have it just because obviously your background. So they're coming to you and they're like, look, I need help. But the other thing that I love what you're saying is like, it's part of the reason why I love Dr. Lane Norton. He's all about the science. Give me the science first. Like I want to be science forward. I want to figure out like the root, and then we'll trace back and help you. So this is another question in terms of like 100% success rate in CorePerform, because like when proteins, I take proteins when I'm working out. Majority of them do leave you bloated. There's some sort of digestive angle that like throws you off. But now you've helped over 500 clients. I think it's more at this point in 3 months, but you've had 100% success rate. Can you share, you've already shared a couple, but some inspiring stories or success transformations that you've seen?
I do want to differentiate the difference between my protein supplement company and the coaching side of the company, because the protein company, I only started because of my clients. Because when I started putting them on this elimination, that was like, the basic like, hey, let's not use processed whey proteins that make you fart all the time. And they were like, okay, Dasha, well, what's the solution? And I said, I don't have one. The plant-based proteins on the market right now have heavy metals in them. They have tons of gums and fillers, and they're filled with like vegetable fibers and all this. Like the ingredients list is so long, and the amino acid intake is not optimized, which means that I need you having double the amount. Can you imagine someone with GI distress now having to have double the amount of this chalky protein and liking it? Like this just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I was like, I need to create an amino acid optimized formula that matches whey in a 1-to-1 scoop. So just as much leucine, just as much essential amino acids in this one scoop as this whey protein scoop does. And that's why I created that CorePerform formula that was top 9 allergen friendly, that could be digested, that didn't have gums, that didn't have artificial sweeteners, and still tasted amazing. So that's why I created the CorePerform protein powder. But I do not require my patients to use it at all. I only created it for them because they were asking me for that solution to begin with. And I say, hey, this is one option, but like If you want to try beef isolate, you can try that. I personally think that tastes like metal, but you can try that. And like, you can try all these other options.
That's awesome. Nice. Yeah. And I think, I've gone through in my past of, being an athlete, bodybuilding, and like just being becoming a chiropractor and stuff. I've gone through so many different brands of proteins, and there's some I like better than others, but there's always like, like you're talking about the toss up between like ingredients that are, most people can't even pronounce it. What the hell's in this thing? And then is it coming from a clean source? So that's fantastic. I'm gonna get some of your product too, because I want to try that.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I wanted to ask you too, because I've heard it in a previous podcast, and I'm so interested because it's come up a number of times, and I'm always asking, like, why don't we know what a healthy gut looks like, right? One of those things, we know what like an unhealthy gut looks like, but we don't know what are the precursors to make the healthy gut. That's always been a question for me. Like, we know what a healthy artery looks like, a clean one. Why can't we get to the point of what a healthy gut looks like?
The reason being,
if you want to hear your question answered live on the show, submit it to ask@fullfuel.com. Check out the Optimizers program, where we build max muscle, improve longevity, and get guys freaking shredded so that they can crush it at life for as long as possible.
Live full fueled, live beyond limits, baby.
is because we have millions and billions of these microbes and parasites and yeasts that create our microbe and or our microbiome, and we would have to quantify and define every single strain in order for that to happen, and we haven't even identified all the strains, and they change on probably a week-to-week basis. I mean, those strains are probably replicating and creating new strains on a monthly basis in the population. We don't know at this point. I think that Harvard has done a great job with their human microbiome project. So that's why we know a lot of the major species, families. We can't define quantitatively exactly what constitutes a healthy microbiome because we just don't know enough yet.
And there's so much biodiversity between people and from different places, right? Yeah. So like, I have identical twin sons. Most likely their microbiomes are going to be different in some way, right? Even though they're identical twins, their genetics are the same. And, we grew up in different areas, drinking different water, eating different foods, different like social interactions, that all influences it. So there's, I get what you're saying. It's like, is it even possible, right? Like, and down also, the line.
Who would you define as the healthiest human being to have the healthiest microbiome? Is it the person that lived the longest, that had the most kids, like the female that was able to like reproduce as many times as possible? Like, what defines the healthiest human even? I don't know.
I was watching this documentary on the centenarians, like how to live to 100. I don't know if you saw the blue zones. Like, he went in and he kind of measured things. It was really interesting to see, but if I had to say, I'd look at those people's guts. I'd be like, those are the people I want to look at. There was a 100-year-old man in Costa Rica that was like hopping up on a horse and just riding along. He was 102. I'm like, dude, I want that dude's gut. Like, whatever that is.
But dude, again, it's like also like the soil in Costa Rica versus the soil in Sardinia, Greece is like, it's different, right? Yeah. So like their crops are growing in different climates, different stuff. So you got to imagine their microbiome is going to be different, even though both these guys looked healthy at 102. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so I get what you're saying. It's like how do we even start knowing that?
Well, just from a longevity perspective, I always think of how it's not necessarily how long I live, but how young I lived, right? To the age, right? So if I'm 80 and I'm living young, I kind of want to mimic, right, that as a staple and maybe reverse engineer somebody that looks like that versus somebody that gets to 80 or even 100, right? But, man, they're not holding it together. They're walking. I'd rather think of the imagery of, well, I got to 80, but I died as young as possible. So from a longevity standpoint and how, like, we're learning specifically from you, just day after day, how important that gut layering is to the rest of the body from an inflammatory perspective. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, that was something that I've learned over the past couple of weeks. I'm like, that'd be cool.
Yeah, they've done studies. So they have actually profiled the microbiome of like the Hadza population that they've based the paleo diet off of, and they've Also done a few more profilings of, I believe it's like Italians and other populations that seem to have the healthiest microbiome. So they're trying to put together the general like overviews and overlaps that they can see, but still we're not close to what exact quantitative amounts and what that really can be defined as.
When you start talking about like these other countries and stuff, it's like they have different standards than our country as far as like what happens to the crop, right? Like, and I guess tell me your opinion on this. Like somebody who is maybe, especially being that you have celiac, like someone who's gluten intolerant or sensitive to gluten here in this country can somehow go to Italy and eat pasta and not have a reaction. How much of that do you think, and again, like maybe we don't even know the answer, but how much of that do you think is actually the gluten, or is this what they're spraying on the crops here in this country, right? Even if you get organic, there's water runoff that can get into the soil, and you know, everything's basically laced nowadays.
I'm not 100% sure, and I have not looked into the research on this. However, I will say that when we have allergenic reactions, we're reacting to the proteins, right? So we're reacting to the proteins of the specific crop that we're eating. That's why people are allergic to fruits and vegetables. When we react to it, we're responding to the proteins. So I don't know that that specific species has a different gluten creation. Maybe I look at like a bodybuilding perspective, where if you repeatedly eat the same thing that is inflammatory, you will become sensitive to it. A lot of people talk about this in bodybuilding with like oats, for example, or something like that. And for us to say that it's the grain versus the spray, I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah.
There's been a recent study that said that people who eat more fruits and vegetables in our country live longer. And what's sprayed with glyphosate? They had the highest amount of fruits and vegetables and of glyphosate in their system, and they lived the longest. So is that saying that glyphosate is safe? And fruits and vegetables, no matter what, will make you feel better? Like taking that knowledge and then applying it to, is it the spraying when we go abroad? I don't think we know the answer yet. I would only assume that it has to do more with the specific species that we're consuming in the US. And I think that it has more to do with that versus something abroad.
I don't want to go off this topic because you mentioned something that we didn't have in our questions that I definitely want to tap into. Is the bodybuilding? How did you get into that? Like, what was the antithesis? Was that something like that it was always programmed and you're like, oh, I want to get into that?
Yeah, I'm an optimizer. I nerded out in college. So I stopped
that's why we got you on
for
here.
12 years. I love optimizing. So I was looking at like, what is the healthiest diet and what is the most effective exercise for longevity? And I think that during college, I was really focusing on looks, right? And while I was going through college, I realized, fitness has nothing to do with how you look and everything. And I think because of bodybuilding, once I kind of left that chapter almost, I was like, fitness is nothing about bodybuilding. Fitness is about how long you live and how many times you can reproduce. That, in a biological standpoint, is exactly what fitness is. How many offspring you can have and how long you can live in order to continue to have those offspring and nurture a family. So at that point, I was like, that's what fitness is. And that's when I started focusing a little bit more on adding in hormone integration and optimizing hormones and wanting to make sure we add that into our gut and hormone life. And I think that overall, what I've learned from everything that I've studied, and even like diet and lifestyle and all the patients I've seen, is that there is a huge mental component, and that every single one of those like blue zone communities, it's the community. The people in a community last the longest. They have the least amount of stress. They are passively active. They have stress resilience because they can be stressed and then they don't feel stressed throughout the day. Like we have a siesta in the middle of the day, they're relaxed. And in the US, we live under constant pressure. We have so much to do. So are you up at 4 a.m. to get to your workout? Like, that is the opposite of what longevity is, right?
Yeah. That perspective is awesome because bodybuilders and people who are performing like these athletes, like you did bikini shows, right? Like you get down to that, especially as a female, you get down to that like 10% body fat That is extremely low for a woman. Hormones are going to be dysregulated, right? Because your body has to prioritize other things, right? Like keeping you alive and your metabolism and stuff. So you're not going to be primed for getting pregnant and having children in that physical state. So like you just said, is that fitness? You might look amazing, right? You might look like this specimen of a human, but you know, what's the longevity and how many children can you produce? That exact example you just made. That's a great way to look at it. I've never actually thought of it like that. So thank you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's so cool to think of like fitness. That is fitness. Like you said those words. Like that is true fitness. I love that.
Many more people are moving into that mobility style training. I think like we can bodybuild from like 20 to 35. And then once you hit 35, like you really got to hit the mobility aspects, like the Tai Chi kind of thing. It's like you got to start like lowering stress, getting the gentle movements going, getting ready for that kind of exercise.
My favorite trend right now that I've seen on social media is like the dad like filming himself working out. And he's like, I don't work out to be the healthiest guy or to be the fittest. He's like, I work out so I can dominate my kids in any athletic endeavor for as long as possible. And I saw that. I was like, that's awesome, man. It's like being able, whatever it is, right? Whether it's like hiking up a mountain or like going for a run or swim, you know, like you got to be well-rounded and like you can be in the best physical looking shape, like 6-pack, all that. But if you can't bend over to pick up your kid without herniating a disc, how healthy are you, right? Like, all right, so we got a question here. This is a little bit shifted from like the gut health stuff, but you know, you're an entrepreneur, right? Being an entrepreneur is very demanding, right? We're both entrepreneurs as well. How do you balance that entrepreneurial life and those endeavors with the personal life, with the health and your own health? Do you have aspiring entrepreneurs looking to maintain a healthy work-life balance that come to you, and maybe you coach them through that kind of stuff as well?
So I've been through like all phases of entrepreneurship, and I think that every entrepreneur has phases of isolation, and every entrepreneur has like an epiphany and a realization of what balance truly looks like in their life. And the key to that is always community, in my opinion. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this too, because 100%. When you're in the isolation, it might be a good point for you, right? Like maybe you're grinding, you're building the business, etc. But you can build the business, but you can't grow the business until you start talking to people, laughing more, having that community, relaxing, because you'll burn out. Yep. You will burn out if you don't step out of that zone. And so I think that's like my biggest takeaway of it is being an entrepreneur. And like now I just recently, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, moved in with some of my best friends. One of them is an entrepreneur. One of them is actually does like M&A for a big company here. So he knows a lot about like financial businesses and buying businesses and what makes a good business, scaling a business. Cool. And living with other entrepreneurs is a game changer, because now even every single week we have a team meeting on Sundays, and on Sundays we talk about all our house rules, about everything else, but we also talk about our businesses, and we get feedback from each other, and we get new ideas from each other, and we're constantly supporting each other to grow. And I think that kind of environment specifically for entrepreneurs is so, so valuable, and why I think the future of entrepreneurship is going to be more of these like masterminds versus everyone working on their own thing and getting angry at each other or like competing against each other. It's going to be more like, hey, we're all doing the same thing. Like, let's talk to each other and grow together, because I don't want to waste my time learning about what email copy has the best open rate if you've already spent 3 months on that and have data on it, you know?
Why learn something that somebody else can, you know, kind of give you insight on? And it doesn't have to be that lonely life, right? That like that is so portrayed as like the entrepreneur grind is this lonely head down. Because like I've almost burned out twice in my business, like, and I know what it feels like when you're just like not feeling that purpose, not feeling that love for what you're doing, not really wanting to go to work in the morning. It's not great, man. And like you're like, damn, my name's on the door. I kind of have to go now. So it's like, you know. But yeah, having the community is huge.
I think that's awesome. Another big thing that you had mentioned in there, and it's just like, it's part of the reason why Alfie and I love doing this. Laughing. Like, laughing's such a key component to longevity, of just like genuinely enjoying the like laugh, being intentional about laughing and having a good time. That like brings so much joy. Ed Milet was talking about this. I got coached by him last year, and he was just like, you're always chasing a feeling, right? And laughter brings out a feeling that's like unparalleled to anything else. It's just like when you can laugh with people and just genuinely have that good time, like when you say that is fitness, like that is happiness, laughing.
It also will increase your vagal tone. So it also will increase your vagal tone, and your gut health will thank you.
Boom. There's
Look
a
at
tip,
that.
everybody.
There
Laugh
it
more.
is. The tidbit. I love that.
Go watch an Adam Sandler movie.
But yeah, so that is also another big thing that I want to tap into even a little bit more, because you said community, right? Community is everything for you, but then you're also building community for other people, and how important that is for like collaboration and to grow together and get healthier together. How has that been for you? How has been building what the CorePerform community that's utilizing your product, because that is a community of itself, and then obviously your coaching side of building that community and elevating each other and really getting people to respond, right? Like that cultivating piece. How has that been for you, and what's that been like?
Oh, there's so many things I can talk about that we do. I think the support is the biggest thing, and just knowing that you're not alone, especially when you're sick, is like showing up and feeling like the first question people ask me, how long will this take? How long until I feel better? And the truth is I can't tell you how long until you feel better. Honestly, because a lot of people, like, there's a 50-50 shot on anything, even prescription medication. For a lot of those prescription medications, like, sometimes doctors just throw something at you to see if it works, and then if it doesn't, they'll change it up and use something else. There's a lot of things that every person's body will just respond differently to. And so while you're teetering with that, it's so important to have other people who can keep you motivated, and who can say like, oh yeah, that really helped me, or I really love this recipe because when I had a stomach ache, like this really helped me. And making that community, to have that support, making you feel less alone, is truly what building the community is all about. And having fun in the process. So with our athletes for CorePerform, and if anyone's listening to this and wants to be one of our affiliates and athletes, we're always welcoming new ones, but we have a WhatsApp group, and like I'll always like tell them like, hey, I'm debating between new flavors, like this one or this one, and they get to vote on it. Or they'll make new reels, and then we have like this competition every month, and we send them a PDF of like fun challenges, and they win free protein, and they win free like other things that we partner with other companies for. So just make it fun and make it supportive, and give as much as you can, and I think that builds community and camaraderie.
We have a similar mission too, is trying to grow a community of people that are very like-minded. We're going to be rolling out a program in maybe by the time this episode airs, we'll be ready, but we're going to call it the Optimizers program. And it's basically for people who are looking to maybe they're dialed in a lot of areas of their life, but not optimized. And we're trying to take it to the next level. It's going to be for high-level people, maybe mostly entrepreneurs, or people who have achieved success in many other areas, but maybe their health has been on the side. But it's going to be a community. So you're going to have access to everyone else. You're going to be able to say, hey, what are you struggling with? And there's going to be a lot of sharing, and it's just going to be open cohort forum where, you got accountability, and you also have like, you can be vulnerable and say, hey, I'm not feeling it today. Like who else is, you're not on your own doing it. Right. Like, I think a lot of the struggles I've had, at least with doing any kind of like nutrition coaching with patients, has been, and even with chiropractic, it's like that buy-in when they're on their own, and me constantly having to reaffirm, hey, you're doing well, you're doing okay, we're gonna get through this, right? But when you got someone doing it with you, like if I get like say a husband and wife come in for chiropractic care, and they're doing it together, and I put them on a similar protocol where they're coming in twice a week together, the results are always better. It really is. And I should get a study done or do some like internal work on like the numbers. But when you have like a accountability buddy, man, it's night and day for sure.
Accountability will transform people's lives and make sure that there's different theories of behavior change. I took an entire class on it in my master's classes. But there's like external motivators, internal motivators, and in order to get to the external or the internal like habit routine building, you have to sometimes have like an external motivator, like a friend or an accountability partner who will get you there.
As always, this episode is brought to you by Nutritious, convenient optimized superfood nutrition powered by nootropics, designed to elevate your physical and mental performance no matter what life throws at you. Nutritious has been proven to improve cognition, boost memory, and speed up mental and physical processing. Alfie, Tell everyone where they can get it.
Yep, head on over to newtup.com to experience these benefits for yourself and live beyond limits today.
You typically work one-on-one, or do you bring them collectively in the community almost right away? Or do you work with them one-on-one and then bringing them into the community?
We have weekly calls in our community. And then on top of that, if they want the extra support, and then on top of that, we have the one-on-one check-in. So they get the opportunity to feel part of a community. Like this on Monday, we did vision boarding for 2024. So we talked all about resolutions and what happened last year, what we can look forward to next year, and how we can create OKRs for that outcome.
Are you an EOS, entrepreneur organizational system, to run your KPIs and OKRs? And
I do it myself.
You do it yourself? I love that.
As a fellow entrepreneur, I am the lawyer, I'm the operations manager, I'm the cook, I am the everything in the business.
Are you familiar with Traction? Are you familiar with the EOS model? You ever read those? Oh, really? They're pretty good books. So there's a book called Traction, and then Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. He's really good. He's based out of Colorado. But all these practical things that you're talking about, but I do them personally. So I met with some guys this morning, including Alfie, and we kind of have a scorecard of life that we build out things, and those are kind of our OKRs and our KPIs for the week of how we're focusing on faith, family, relationship, finance and business, and fitness and health. So we want to make sure we're queuing those up and measuring those on a weekly basis. But then in business, obviously I want to know how the sales department's doing, the marketing department, the operations, and then the finance. So that was just from an entrepreneurship question I wanted to tap into real quick. But you've had a lot of accolades and recognitions throughout your career. So, and it's short. You're young, aren't you? How old are you right now?
29.
You're 29. You're so young.
Good stuff.
And you've just had remarkable, obviously, acceleration in your field. I love the research piece. What achievements stand out for you, just right now, and then from the past, and then what do you got on the horizon? What are you thinking of? What next year, and then maybe even the next couple of years? But what's one thing that really stands out to you? And then what do you got what are some things that are coming up that you're really excited about?
So I've never felt proud in my life. I think that this may be actually a common thing with females, and especially who have this type A personality. I've never really felt proud of my life, except for one moment. And that one moment was when I graduated Tufts, because so many people bash colleges and schools nowadays. They're like, no one needs that. Honestly, that school changed my life. They gave me opportunity, and I'm forever indebted for that opportunity and for those connections and for the research and for the knowledge that they gave me. And so graduating from that and feeling a part of that community, feeling a part of a higher level of standards, feeling a part of, we have the White House on the other line, and we are all in a room with Kellogg and Campbell, giving me that opportunity to take me to that higher level and graduating from that school. That's the proudest moment I think I've felt. And then second to that would be when I actually won the pitch competition a year or two later. I cried as I was winning.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear about that. What do you have in the works for CorePerform and for your coaching program? What are things that you're looking in future tense, maybe some goals that you have, and it could be clients, or what are some things that you're thinking of in the future?
Yeah, we have some fun ideas. And this is purely social media and reach, and we can get into the nitty gritty of things. But I think we're looking to expand our social networks in the next year. So we're looking into more Facebook utilization, which I know a lot of people are actually staying away from, but also YouTube. And so we're just trying to test out the waters. And I think entrepreneurship is constantly a risk. You kind of have to take risks in different areas and grow different channels. So I think we've mastered Instagram at this point, and now it's a matter of, okay, we have systems and operations set for Instagram. Let's now open up and now add a YouTube component, now add whatever else component, a TikTok component, whatever else. And so we can increase our lead gen. So that's what we're working on from a business perspective for the next year, I think.
That's awesome.
No, that's awesome. Socials is such a massive strategy.
Yeah.
But then also like that piece, and I want to focus on this a little bit because like that proud element that touches me because I feel like I have a really hard time with that of enjoying the process so much that like I get these daily pride moments every day. I'm like trying to go back to that of like, I was actually proud of yesterday. Like not one of those things where I'm constantly achieving and it's driving forward, but literally I'm going through this like scenario even like this week, right? Of like, I'm so forward bound that like these proud moments should be happening like more often, I feel like, because we talk about that longevity component of just being able to laugh and enjoy that process of the journey. I don't want to get to the point where I like bringing this Tom Brady analogy, but like when the next ring's always the best one. I want to be able to process things like kind of like as they happen and as things slow down. What's your take on that?
You made me think of like gratitude journaling, and I can tell myself, I am telling myself every single day, I'm so freaking blessed of what I do. I get to help so many people, and it made me think, what is the difference between gratitude and pride? And so I think gratitude and pride, they're slightly different in that gratitude, you are thankful and grateful for the place that you've been. Pride is taking accountability that you yourself have gotten you to this point, right? It's more about you. There's like a you component versus anything else.
That's great perspective on that. Hey, so we've loved having you on here. This conversation was awesome. This is probably the best one we've had, man. I want to ask you one last question. We usually ask this of everyone that comes on the show. So we at Full Fueled here talk about like how are we living our life fully fueled? We have these 6 pillars that we focus on: fuel, movement, sleep, mind, so like mindset, work and purpose, and then spirit. Tell me a little bit about like what does that mean to you to be full fueled, and how does that how do you see yourself living your life full fueled?
I love that because we have the same, very similar ones at CorePerform. We have CorePerform 5 pillars: sleep, personal stress, environmental stress, exercise, and diet. And once you've mastered the stressors of those 5 things, you're living life free. And so if I were to say, what does living life fully fueled mean? It means you're living life free, full of love, and full of giving love.
That was a knockout answer. I love that. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about, where they can learn more about you online, website, Instagram, all of it? Just kind of plug yourself here.
Absolutely. So my Instagram is Dasha Fitness, DASHA Fitness. And then our website is CorePerform.com. And if you're interested in trying the protein, you can head right to our website. You can get 15% off on your first order. And we're on Amazon as well. And you can always shoot me an email. All my links and everything is going to be linked below, I'm sure.
Everyone listening needs to follow Dasha at Dasha Fitness because
so much good content, man.
And it is like pure value. Yeah. Like she puts a lot of effort into her Instagram feed to provide a tremendous amount of value. So I couldn't encourage it more. Please go follow her because she is absolutely just like free value driven. So if there's anyone you follow, please go follow Dasha. She's amazing.
Thank you so much. And you're reminding me that we do have a free value opportunity. If you guys want to try out the CorePerform diet yourselves, we're going to be running a challenge next month. January 7th is when we'll start. So definitely head to my page because registration will open the first week of January. Awesome. And we'll be giving out free like coaching training for a whole week all together in a WhatsApp community and giving you all the recipes you need, how to tackle your health and all the things. So if you want free for the next year, you can join us then.
Well, awesome. That's what we got here at Live Full Fueled. Live Beyond Limits, baby.
Live Full Fueled.
Let's go.